People of Reddit. Married Redditors, what is the creepiest thing your spouse has ever done? One night, my spouse sleepwalked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and started having a full conversation with a jar of pickles. I'm still not sure who won that debate. My wife is a sleep talker. It's usually just gibberish, but one when she was asleep and I was watching a movie sat upright and looked at and said those clowns won't get my ice cream. Slapped me in the face and went to sleep. I was like, okay, the clowns won't get her ice cream. When I had my hip replacement, he made me a hip replacement Barbie. Went to the store and tested the different leg joints to find the easiest one while children and parents watched. He thought of the most innocent word he could and then started to creepily whisper it to me. This has been going on for years. Now he has trained our children to do it. Think of someone randomly leaning over your shoulder and whispering bagel in your ear like Hannibal Lecter. It only happens occasionally, so I'll have my guard up for a few weeks after it happens. Then I kind of forget about it until he does it again. My toddler can never remember the right words, so he just whispers random words in my ear occasionally, and it cracks me up. She farted in her sleep and then laughed like a lumberjack. My wife was sleeping in the passenger seat on a late-night drive home from visiting her family. Our very young kids are in the back seats out cold too. She suddenly snaps up and grabs the wheel screaming something about how I, the totally awake and driving just fine driver, am about to drive us off a cliff. She was full strength trying to turn the wheel to the right, which would have been bad. I started yelling no nitrogen monoxide, quickly realizing that wasn't stopping her. I had to full on NBA rebound the wheel with my elbows way out and shove her very hard back into her seat. I managed to get a hold of her upper arm and used it to shove her into the door when she apparently still hadn't realized the reality of the situation and made another grab for the wheel. There was a lot of cursing and screaming. It was not pretty. Once she figured out what she had done, she lost it and started gas crying worse than I've ever seen. The rest of the drive home was pretty rough. My spouse once rearranged all my childhood toys into a mini altar dedicated to Nicolas Cage. Woke up to Cage's face staring at me like he was the guardian of my dreams. I guess love takes mysterious forms, right? He stumbled on his way back from the bathroom in the dark and caught himself by taking a couple of extra steps that somehow put him by my side of the bed. At least that's what he told me. I woke up near the end of it, saw the silhouette of a person standing next to over me and screamed in terror thinking it was an intruder before I realized it was him. I woke up once and he was laughing in his sleep. Then I heard our kid laughing in her sleep. She was upstairs and I heard her through the monitor. I was super creeped out the rest of the night. My husband and I met online and married after only 6 months. It was a whirlwind, but it was the right choice 10 years in and it's still great. However, one night a month or two after we married, I woke up in the night to him death gripping my skull. Not sure if he was sleeping, I panicked, thinking I'd married an abuser. I talked to him, nothing. I finally eased his hand off of me and breathed a sigh of relief. Another few seconds went by and his hand whipped out and grabbed my skull again. Then I really panicked. Why there in the dark trying not to think of what I'd gotten myself into and being grateful he grabbed me where he did, and not an inch or two further down where his fingers would have gone into my eyes. Come morning, he had absolutely no memory of this whatsoever. He has never done it again. He has never been even remotely harsh with me, ever, so it's something we laugh about now. What I wouldn't give to know what he was dreaming that night. My wife bought a new smart scale and it had been sending her my weights directly to her phone every time I used it and she didn't tell me for quite some time. Instead of telling me directly and immediately, she eventually broached the subject by asking me if my weight has been fluctuating lately as she noticed a recent trend. My wife occasionally tries to make visual contact with my butthole. She's never made any kind of sexual advance in that sense. Just every once in a while, I'll catch her sneaking up on me when I'm naked or changing with this goofy look on her face. I'm sure she only does this because I act super self-conscious of my butt area. Usually, I'll notice her and run away as yet to be able to confirm visually whether or not I actually have a butthole, which I guess means I'm winning. He sometimes makes sounds like the predator in his sleep. It is not a good sound to wake up to. I wake up in terror every single time, and he's still out cold, clicking and drooling away. Not me, but my brother's wife. They were living on the top floor of a 2-story general store built in the late 1800s. He's on the laptop in bed and she's asleep next to him. All of a sudden, she sits up in bed and points to the door and says, "Who's that lady?" My brother with zero night vision can't see the door frame or through the darkness behind it. Freaks the fuck out. She lays back down asleep. They put their finger in my mouth while we were both sleeping. Scared the crap out of me and him when I almost bit it off. He likes to put my hand on his butt so I can feel his farts. Hearing them and smelling them isn't gross enough. I get to feel them come out. Hopefully he doesn't shit his pants. Before we were married, she would take a lot of Polaroid pictures. Mostly of me sleeping, and a good amount of me eating too. There were others too, like me doing chores or whatever. Imagine a stalker's collection of photos. The person is never aware of the photo until after it was taken. She ended getting the first year's worth of photos framed for our house. Eva laughed kind of way, then got real quiet, then started to quietly make this high-pitched humming sound and slowly crescendoed it into a full-on H, then rolled over and started snoring again. Had no recollection of it the next day. Hasn't done it since. Husband drank too much after a long day. Fell asleep in living room. Woke, spoke normally, stood to go lean against a wall, and pee like at a urinal while still speaking. Livid, thankfully, we don't have carpet. We were a dry house for a long time. I'm missing part of my hand and sometimes he jokingly shoved my hand in his mouth. It happened enough time I had to ask if he secretly has an amputation kink. Hasn't happened again since. Okay, I got a pretty good one. One time my wife at the time girlfriend and I decided to climb up to the roof of her apartment complex to have a few beers and chat. This was in the COVID era, roughly late May, early June, and we were discussing some plans we could do together. The sun sets and we're about to pick up our stuff to head inside. As we stand up, she makes a comment about coming back up here to watch fireworks for the 4th of July. I'm not exaggerating. Literally within 5 seconds of her saying that a lone firework goes off in the distance in a close neighborhood. And we're both just standing there wondering how she manifested this. I'm convinced she's a witch and I love her. This side of my city is definitely known to have some random fireworks, but it being at least a few weeks out from the 4th and the timing on her comment was just a wild coincidence. Night terrors, nothing like being woken up by a death-curdling scream. Doesn't feel creepy now, but it did then. My husband sat bolt upright in bed, still asleep, in the middle of the night, rummaged on the floor to find a small blanket. He then fluffed that blanket over me and stole the entire comforter out from under it, immediately back to snoring. One time when he was really stressed but asleep, he put the contents of the top of his nightstand on our bed during the night. I woke up with a few items like an alarm clock on the bed next to me and him still sleeping. In my morning grogginess, I was sure someone broke in and pulled a prank, but we lived in an upstairs apartment and nothing else was out of the ordinary. He has no memory of doing it, but it's the only way we can think of how that happened. Thanks for watching.